Nobody searches for a video like this when things are going well. Something fell apart. Maybe it was slow, maybe it was sudden, but right now you are standing in the wreckage of a version of yourself that no longer works. And the worst part is not the pain. The worst part is the silence. Nobody knows how deep the damage goes. Nobody sees the version of you that stares at the ceiling at 3 in the morning, wondering how it all went so wrong. But here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. This video is not about motivation. I am not going to pump you up with empty words that fade by tomorrow. What I am going to give you are 10 specific habits that, if you practice them in silence over the next 90 days, will fundamentally rewire who you are. Not who you pretend to be online, not who you were before things broke, but the version of you that is stronger than anything that tried to destroy you. I know this because I have been exactly where you are. There was a time when I lost everything that defined me. My routine, my confidence, my sense of direction. I tried the motivation videos. I tried the big goals. I tried telling myself to just push through. None of it worked. What worked was something far quieter, something most people will never try because it does not look impressive on the outside, and that is exactly why it works. There is one habit on this list, specifically the last one, that changed everything for me. It is the one thing that separates people who actually rebuild from people who just talk about it. But you need to hear the first 9 to understand why it matters. So stay with me. And if this is the first time you are hearing me talk like this, if this kind of raw strategic approach to self-discipline is what you have been looking for, then do yourself a favor and subscribe to this channel right now. Not because I am asking, but because what we talk about here every single week is designed to help you build the mental operating system that most people spend their entire lives missing. Hit that subscribe button so you do not lose this. Now, let me set something straight before we dive in. These 10 habits are not random tips pulled from some self-help book. They are ranked. From the most basic, the foundation you need to even begin, all the way up to the one habit that holds everything together. Each one builds on the one before it. If you skip ahead, if you try to jump to number 1 without laying the groundwork, you will fail. Not because you are weak, but because that is how the human mind works. You cannot build a fortress on sand. Musashi, the greatest samurai who ever lived, said something that most people read and completely misunderstand. He said that 1,000 days of training is discipline, and 10,000 days of training is refinement. Most people hear that and think it means you need to grind for years, but that is not the point. The point is that discipline and refinement are 2 different phases. You do not start with refinement. You start with the boring, invisible, unglamorous work of laying 1 brick at a time. That is what this list is about. 10 bricks, laid in the right order, in silence. Habit number 10. Clean your physical space every single morning. I know. You were expecting something deep and philosophical right out of the gate. But this is where rebuilding actually begins. And the fact that it sounds simple is exactly why most people skip it. When your life falls apart, your environment reflects your internal state. Dirty dishes in the sink, clothes on the floor, a desk buried under chaos. That external disorder is not just a symptom, it is a cause. Neuroscience research has consistently shown that visual clutter competes for your attention and reduces your working memory capacity. Your brain is trying to process the mess around you at the same time that it is trying to process the mess inside you. You are fighting a war on 2 fronts without realizing it. So the first habit is devastatingly simple. Every morning, before you do anything else, you clean your space. Not deep cleaning, not reorganizing your entire apartment. Just putting things where they belong. Making the bed, wiping the counter, clearing the desk. This takes 5 to 10 minutes. But what it does psychologically is enormous. It gives you a small win before the day even starts. It sends a signal to your brain that you are someone who creates order out of chaos. And that identity shift, that tiny vote for the person you are becoming, is far more powerful than any motivational speech. Habit number 9. Move your body for at least 20 minutes every single day and do it first thing. Not to look good, not to lose weight, not to hit some arbitrary fitness goal. You move your body because motion is the fastest way to change your mental state. When you're stuck in a cycle of despair or confusion or numbness, your physiology is locked in a pattern. Your shoulders are forward, your breathing is shallow, your muscles are tense. That physical pattern reinforces the emotional pattern. They feed each other. Exercise breaks the loop. Research on neuroplasticity shows that physical movement, especially aerobic exercise, triggers the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially fertilizer for your neurons. It helps your brain form new connections, new pathways, new ways of thinking. You are literally rebuilding your mind from the cellular level up. But here's the key: it has to be first thing in the morning. Not because there is some magical property of the morning, but because if you wait, life will fill the space. Emails, responsibilities, problems, other people's urgencies. The morning is the only time that belongs entirely to you. 20 minutes, a walk, a run, bodyweight exercises in your living room. It does not matter what you do. It matters that you do it before the world gets a vote on how your day goes. Habit number 8. Write down 3 things every night that you did right that day. Oh, not a gratitude journal. Not a list of things you are thankful for. This is different. This is a record of your own competence. When you are rebuilding from zero, the biggest enemy is not the external circumstances. It is your own narrative. Your brain is running a story on repeat that says you are a failure, that everything you touch falls apart, that you do not have what it takes. That story feels true because your brain is wired with a negativity bias. It notices and remembers negative information more strongly than positive information. Evolutionary psychology tells us this was useful when we needed to remember where the predators were. But in modern life, it becomes a prison. The evening review is your escape. Every night before you go to sleep, you write down 3 things you did that day that showed competence, discipline, or progress. It can be small: made my bed, went for a walk instead of scrolling my phone, had a difficult conversation I had been avoiding, finished a task I started. These are not grand achievements, they are evidence. Evidence that the story your brain is telling you is incomplete. Over time, usually within 2 to 3 weeks, this practice rewires your self-perception. You start to see yourself differently. Not because anything external changed, but because you are finally paying attention to the right data. Habit number 7. Read for 30 minutes every day, and choose books that challenge your thinking, not comfort it. When your life collapses, most people reach for entertainment. They numb out with social media, video games, binge-watching shows. And I understand the impulse. When everything hurts, you want something that makes the pain stop, even temporarily. But numbing is not healing, it is postponing. Reading, specifically reading material that confronts you with new ideas and forces you to think, does something that entertainment cannot. It rebuilds your cognitive framework. It gives you new mental models, new ways of interpreting what happened to you, new strategies for what comes next. There is a reason Musashi spent his later years writing, painting, and studying philosophy after decades of combat. He understood that the mind is the ultimate weapon, and a weapon that is not sharpened regularly becomes useless. 30 minutes a day. Psychology, philosophy, strategy, history, biography. Books written by people who have walked through fire and came out the other side with something worth sharing. You are not reading for fun. You are reading to rebuild the operating system that runs your life. And every book you finish is another layer of armor between you and the chaos that broke you before. Habit number 6. Remove one source of mental noise every single week. This is the habit nobody talks about because it is not about adding something positive. It is about subtracting something destructive. Most people who are trying to rebuild make the same mistake. They keep adding new habits, new routines, new goals, on top of a foundation that is already crumbling under the weight of toxic inputs. You are trying to build discipline while following people on social media who make you feel inadequate. You are trying to build focus while your phone sends you 60 notifications a day. You are trying to rebuild your confidence while spending time with people who constantly remind you of your failures. The subtraction habit works like this. Every week, you identify one source of mental noise and you eliminate it. It could be an app on your phone. It could be a person you need to create distance from. It could be a news source that keeps you in a constant state of anxiety. 1 per week. That is 52 sources of noise removed in a year. Think about how different your mental landscape looks after that. The samurai concept of mushin, the state of no mind, is not about thinking nothing. It is about removing the unnecessary so that what remains is clear, sharp, and powerful. You cannot hear your own strategy when the room is full of screaming. And speaking of removing noise and building a clear mind, this connects directly to something I created for people who are in this exact position, the KMA. Method is a 5-minute daily practice designed specifically for mental control and inner calm. It is not meditation. It is not journaling. It is a strategic system that combines 3 specific mental techniques into a daily ritual that takes less time than brewing your morning coffee. I built it because I needed it myself. When I was in the middle of my own collapse, I did not have 30 minutes to meditate. I did not have the patience for complicated breathing exercises. I needed something fast, something effective, and something I could do even on the days when I had zero motivation. That is what this method is. Over 4,000 people have already used it to build a baseline of mental control that makes everything else in their life easier. The link is in the description below. But we are not done here. There are 5 more habits to cover, and they only get more important from here. Habit number 5. Set one single priority for each day and protect it with your life. When you are rebuilding, the temptation is to try to fix everything at once. Your finances, your health, your relationships, your career, your mindset. All of it, all at the same time. This is a trap. Cognitive psychology research on decision fatigue shows that your willpower is a finite resource. Every decision you make throughout the day depletes it. And when you are trying to rebuild from zero, you are already starting with a depleted tank. Spreading your limited willpower across 10 different priorities means none of them get enough energy to actually move forward. The one priority habit changes this entirely. Every night, when you do your evening review, you also decide on one thing, just one, that tomorrow you will accomplish no matter what. Not a to-do list, not 5 things. One thing. And the next day, that one thing gets your best energy, your sharpest focus, your most disciplined hours. Everything else is secondary. Over time, this creates a compound effect that is almost unfair, because while everyone else is scattered across 20 mediocre tasks, you are putting 100% of your energy into one thing per day. That is 30 high-quality outcomes per month. 365 per year. The people around you will not understand how you are making so much progress. They will not see the strategy behind it. All they will see is someone who is quietly, relentlessly moving forward. And that is the point. Habit number 4. Practice deliberate solitude for at least 1 hour every day. This is not isolation. This is not running away from people. This is something far more strategic. Deliberate solitude is the intentional practice of being alone with your own thoughts without any external input. No phone, no music, no podcasts, no books, just you and your mind. Most people are terrified of this, and that fear is exactly why they never rebuild. Because rebuilding requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you have been running from, the mistakes you made, the responsibilities you avoided, the hard truths about who you are and what you need to change. You cannot confront those things while you are constantly distracted. Musashi spent the last years of his life living alone in a cave called Reigando, where he wrote the Book of 5 Rings. He did not retreat because he was weak. He retreated because he understood that the deepest work happens in silence. Modern psychology confirms this. Research on self-reflection shows that individuals who regularly practice solitude develop greater emotional regulation, clearer decision-making, and a stronger sense of self. But here is the nuance that most people miss. Deliberate solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of meaningful connection. Solitude is the presence of meaningful self-connection. You are not avoiding the world. You are meeting yourself. 1 hour a day. Go for a walk without your phone. Sit in a quiet room. Drive without the radio. The thoughts that surface during that hour are the thoughts you have been avoiding. And those avoided thoughts are the exact ones you need to face if you want to rebuild. Habit number 3. Build one skill that has nothing to do with your current crisis. This is counterintuitive, which is why it works. When your life falls apart, every instinct tells you to focus exclusively on fixing what broke. If your career collapsed, you pour all your energy into your career. If a relationship ended, you obsess over relationships. If your health declined, you become consumed with health. This makes logical sense, but psychologically, it is a disaster. Because when you tie all of your self-worth to the thing that is broken, every setback in that area feels like a personal failure. You have no buffer, no safety net for your identity. Building a skill in a completely unrelated area gives you something critical, a domain where you are making progress even when the main area of your life feels stuck. Learn to cook, pick up a language, study chess, start drawing, practice coding. It does not matter what the skill is. What matters is that it gives you evidence of your own capacity for growth at a time when you feel like everything is stagnating. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the belief in your own ability to accomplish tasks and handle challenges. Self-efficacy does not just exist in one area, it transfers. When you see yourself improving at chess, something shifts in your brain. You start to think, if I can learn this, maybe I can learn that too. If I can improve here, maybe I can improve there. That mental transfer is the engine of reconstruction. It is the spark that turns a single point of progress into a wildfire of confidence that spreads across every area of your life. Habit number 2. Control the first and last 30 minutes of every day with absolute discipline. The first 30 minutes of your day set the trajectory for everything that follows. The last 30 minutes determine the quality of your sleep, the content of your subconscious processing, and the mental state you wake up in the next morning. Most people surrender both of these windows to chaos. They wake up and immediately check their phone, absorbing other people's emergencies, the news cycle, social media comparison. They go to sleep scrolling, feeding their brain a toxic cocktail of blue light, anxiety, and envy. This is not a small problem. It is the reason most people feel like they are never making progress even when they are working hard. Because they are starting every day in a reactive state and ending every day in a depleted state. The comeback protocol for these two windows is simple but non-negotiable. First 30 minutes, no screens. Move your body. Review your one priority. Set your intention for the day. Last 30 minutes, no screens. Do your evening review. Read something that expands your mind. Go to bed with the last thought in your head being something you chose, not something an algorithm chose for you. This habit alone is worth more than 90% of the productivity advice on the internet. Because it does not optimize a single task. It optimizes the container that holds every task. When the container is strong, everything inside it performs better. And now, habit number 1. The one that holds everything together. The one that, without it, all the other 9 habits will eventually collapse. Habit number 1 is this. Commit to being completely honest with yourself for 5 minutes every single day. That is it. 5 minutes of radical, uncomfortable, unfiltered self-honesty. Not honesty with other people. Not honesty about your opinions or your feelings. Honesty with yourself about yourself. This sounds simple. It is the hardest thing on this entire list. Because self-deception is the most sophisticated defense mechanism the human mind has ever developed. You are lying to yourself right now about something, and you do not even know it. Maybe you are telling yourself you are fine when you are not. Maybe you are blaming someone else for a situation that you played a role in creating. Maybe you are holding on to a goal that you do not actually want, because admitting you do not want it would mean confronting the fact that you have been wasting your time. Maybe you are avoiding a conversation, a decision, or a change because the truth of what it would require is too painful to face. 5 minutes. Every day. You sit down and you ask yourself one question. What am I pretending not to know? And then you sit with the answer. You do not fix it. You do not make a plan. You just acknowledge the truth. That act, that single act of internal acknowledgement, is the most powerful force for change that exists. Because every other habit on this list requires a foundation of self-awareness. And self-awareness is impossible when you are lying to yourself. This is what Musashi meant when he wrote in the Dokudo, his final work before death. Do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. He was not talking about romance. He was talking about the way humans deceive themselves by following what feels good instead of what is true. He was talking about the courage to see reality as it is, not as you wish it were. The 5-minute honesty practice is the master key. Without it, you clean your space but ignore why it got messy in the first place. Without it, you exercise your body but neglect the mental patterns that are destroying you from the inside. Without it, you read books but never apply what you learn because you cannot see where you actually need to apply it. Everything, every single habit on this list becomes exponentially more effective when it is built on a foundation of truth. And that foundation takes 5 minutes a day. Now, let me tell you why this particular habit sits at the top of the list, above all the others. I have tried every self-improvement system you can think of. Morning routines, goal-setting frameworks, accountability groups, meditation retreats, digital detoxes. All of them worked for a while, and then they stopped, every single time. And for years, I could not figure out why. What I eventually realized is that I was building habits on top of a lie. I was doing the morning routine while ignoring the fact that my career was heading in a direction I did not believe in. I was meditating while avoiding a conversation that needed to happen. I was setting goals that looked impressive on paper, but meant nothing to the person I actually was underneath the performance. The 5-minute honesty practice stripped all of that away. It forced me to see what I was actually doing, what I was actually avoiding, what I was actually afraid of. And once I could see it, I could work with it, not against it. That is the difference between people who rebuild and people who just rearrange the furniture in a burning house. Rebuilding requires the willingness to look at the fire. So, let me give you a practical framework for implementing all 10 of these habits without burning out in the first week. Because I know how this goes. You watch a video like this, you get fired up, you try to do all 10 things tomorrow, and by Wednesday, you are back to your old patterns, feeling worse than before, because now you have added failure on top of failure. Do not do that. Here is the approach that actually works. Week 1, you start with only 2 habits: cleaning your space every morning and doing the 5-minute honesty practice. That is it. Nothing else. You do those 2 things every single day for 7 days. Week 2, you add the morning movement and the evening review. Now you have 4 habits. Still manageable. Still sustainable. Week 3, you add the reading and the 1 priority system. Week 4, you add the deliberate solitude and the noise removal. Week 5, you add the skill building and the first and last 30 minutes protocol. By the end of 5 weeks, all 10 habits are active. But because you layered them gradually, each one has a foundation under it. Each one has had time to start becoming automatic before the next one was added. Research shows that it takes approximately 66 days for a behavior to become habitual. By the time you are 8 to 10 weeks in, the earliest habits are running on autopilot. They no longer require willpower. They are just part of who you are. And that is the goal, not to have a perfect day every day, but to become the kind of person for whom these behaviors are as natural as breathing. There is one more thing I want to say about implementation. You are going to miss days. You are going to have mornings where you do not feel like getting up early. You are going to have nights where you skip the review. You are going to have weeks where the noise removal feels impossible, because the noise is coming from people you cannot easily cut out of your life. That is fine. The rule is simple. Never miss twice in a row. Miss once, and you are human. Miss twice, and you are building a new pattern. A pattern of quitting. So when you miss a day, the most important thing you can do is show up the next day, not perfectly, not with extra intensity to make up for it. Just show up. That consistency, that quiet refusal to let a single bad day become a bad week, is what separates the people who rebuild from the people who just keep falling apart. Now, before we close, I need to warn you about the 3 mistakes that will sabotage everything I just told you. Mistake number 1: telling everyone about your comeback. This is the most common and the most destructive. When you are rebuilding, the instinct is to announce it. To tell your friends, your family, your social media followers that you are changing, that things are going to be different this time. Do not do this. Research in psychology has shown that announcing your goals creates a premature sense of accomplishment. Your brain gets a small hit of satisfaction from the announcement itself, which reduces your motivation to actually do the work. This is called the substitution effect. The declaration substitutes for the action. Rebuild in silence. Let the results speak. When people notice the change, and they will notice, let that be the announcement. Mistake number 2: comparing your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 20. When you are starting from 0, everyone else looks like they are miles ahead of you. Social media amplifies this to an almost unbearable degree. You see people posting their wins, their progress, their picture-perfect routines, and you feel like you are already behind before you have even started. Here is what you need to understand. You are not behind. You are at the beginning. Those are 2 very different things. Being behind implies you are in the same race and losing. Being at the beginning means you have the advantage of a fresh start with no accumulated mistakes from a wrong direction. Mistake number 3: waiting for the right time to start. There is no right time. There is no perfect Monday. There is no ideal circumstance. The conditions will never be optimal. If you wait for the right time, you will wait forever. The time to start is always now, with whatever you have, wherever you are, however broken you feel. That is not a motivational platitude. It is a strategic reality, because every day you wait is another day the old patterns solidify. Every day you delay is another day your brain interprets inaction as the new normal. Start messy. Start imperfect. Start today. Now listen carefully, because this is important. If you have made it to this point in the video, you are not the average viewer. Most people clicked away after the first 2 minutes. You stayed. That tells me something about who you are and what you are ready for. The 10 habits I just gave you are the framework. They are the architecture of a rebuilt life, but architecture without execution is just a drawing on paper. If you want a tool that accelerates the most critical part of this entire process, the mental control, the inner calm, the ability to sit with uncomfortable truths without spiraling, then the KMA method was built specifically for that. 5 minutes a day. A system so simple that the only way to fail at it is to never start. The link is in the description. It is the same tool I used during my own reconstruction, and it is the same tool that thousands of people are using right now to build the mental foundation that makes everything else possible. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me this. Which of these 10 habits do you think is going to be the hardest for you, and why? I am not asking this to make conversation. I am asking because when you type it out, when you put words to the resistance, it loses power over you. That is the first act of the 5-minute honesty practice right there. So tell me, what is your hardest habit, and what are you pretending not to know about why it is hard? If this video shifted something in your mind today, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Not everyone. One person. Someone you know is going through something. Someone who is trying to rebuild in silence and thinks they are alone in it. Send them this video. That one action might be the thing that changes the trajectory of their life. And before you go, subscribe if you have not already. What we do here is not entertainment. It is not motivation. It is mental construction, brick by brick, week by week. And if that is what you need right now, then you are in the right place. Musashi wrote 21 principles at the end of his life. The very first one was this: accept everything just the way it is. He did not mean be passive. He did not mean give up. He meant stop fighting reality. Stop wishing things were different. Start working with what is actually in front of you. That is what rebuilding from zero really means. It means accepting the wreckage without letting it define you. It means laying one brick at a time in the dark, without applause, without recognition, without anyone telling you it is going to work. It means trusting the process before you can see the results. The 10 habits I gave you today are not magic. They are strategy. They are the quiet, deliberate, relentless actions of someone who has decided that this collapse is not the end of their story. It is the beginning of a better one. But only if you start, not tomorrow, not next week. Now. The silent comeback has already begun. The only question is whether you're going to show up for it. Take care and see you later.